My name is Nic Tiemens. I've always loved fish and aquatic life since I was a child. I started aquariums and goldfish bowls when I was 4 years old, and I grew up in the Midwest, so I was a landlocked child. I never got to go to the coastal cities as a kid. And I've always wanted to explore that part of the globe, the world underwater. As I grew older, it just turned into this passion for marine life and aquatic life. And it made me pursue this goal of becoming an expert in the world of aquariums. So the way my passion became a career is that I was exploring the beginning of my adult life. I was sifting through college, trying to decide what I wanted to be. And I found a summer job with a company that cleaned fish tanks. Doctor's offices, preschools, you name it. Wherever there was a small aquarium inside of a lobby, we would clean that aquarium. And I loved it. It was me really getting my hands dirty in a hobby that I loved. And eventually the company started doing larger installations around Chicago. And one of the first installations I got to take part in was for Michael Jordan's house. And as a kid growing up in Chicago in the 90s, he was an icon to every boy and girl in that city. So it was amazing to me to be able to do something that I loved and interact with people who I completely admired, had always wanted to meet, and then get to know on a personal level. At that early stage in my life, I started to realize that the more I explored in life, the more I took risks, the greater the reward would be. So at an early age, I decided to move to Los Angeles and commit to doing this job full time, and it's been 2 decades. So today we're in Brentwood, California. This is an area called Mandeville Canyon. Behind me is a 16,000 square foot mansion, brand new construction, and it has all the bells and whistles, but of course it has an aquarium. So today we're delivering the stand for the aquarium. We're gonna get it set in place, but this is one of the first stages of the process. So we're gonna put our muscle shirts on, eat our Wheaties, and lift this thing into place. Yep. So we got the stand in the house. At this point, we're just gonna set it into place, mock it up, make sure all the angles line up, and then we'll leave it in the hands of the contractor. They're gonna waterproof the floor around the area. And then we'll come back in a week, level out the stand, bolt it to the concrete, and then start working on the tank. Essentially what you're looking at here is a corner of the house that is gonna be turned into an aquarium experience. So you saw us bring our stand in. Our aquarium is gonna set on top of this stand. It's gonna be another 48 inches high. So imagine just this large L-shaped aquarium that wraps this entire corner. It's gonna have a beautiful like coral display, of course fish swimming about, and then everything will be finished off with really high-end cabinetry, so it looks like it was built into this space. Well, at this point we're trying to assess how we're gonna get the actual tank into the house. Now the tank weighs about 10 times as much as the stand, so we can't lift it in with 3 guys. We're gonna need heavy machinery. We'll probably rent a forklift so that we can remove it from our box truck off of a pallet and then drive it into the house. At that point, we'll transition it to hydraulic carts so we can pump it up to the stand, push it in place. When I started this years ago, I always had the vision to build the highest quality aquariums possible. We always had 2 values that we really anchored to. We appreciated art and we appreciated science. And we thought if we could find the perfect blend between those 2 traits in any company, you would find success. So for us, there's obviously a tremendous amount of creativity in building aquariums. It's our own unique creative take on what we do. But there's a very high standard of science that goes into every ecosystem, especially one that's a habitat in someone's home, because at the end of the day, we're dealing with live animals. So we want to make sure we have the most creative aesthetic in our work, but also the highest quality science so that the animals that we're putting in these aquariums thrive for decades. We're on 104th Street, which is what we call the boulevard in our industry, because it's warehouse after warehouse after warehouse of all these importers. It's convenient for us being in LA that we get to come here and handpick or decide what we want before it gets dispersed all over the country. Jeff's getting a lot of fish today. I'm putting 20 in the tank, but look how small they are. These guys are the size of a penny. And then we've got some that haven't been quarantined yet that will go into his quarantine system, like this beautiful flame angel.
Essentially what this is here is this is what we call a quarantine system. This is the main tank here, which is 1,500 gallons. But then we have a separate system, which is 150 gallons, where we place all of our fish before they go into the main system. And we do that so that we can essentially quarantine them to make sure they're disease-free, parasite-free, infection-free before we put them in with the population of other fish. In the quarantine process, which lasts about 2 weeks, we treat the fish with specific medications to eradicate any fungus, any parasites, any sort of bacterial infection that may be on them during transport or from the wild, so that they're completely healthy and eating and ready to go into the main tank. Currently, right now, we have 2 very beautiful eels. We have what's called a banana eel and a fire coral eel in this quarantine system. They've been in here for weeks, and the only reason that they haven't gone into the main display yet is because we want them to get a little larger before they go into the big tank. So they live in here kind of permanently right now. They're fed every day, and they have plenty of space to thrive. This guy's coming out now. It's one of my favorite eels. In the meantime, the fish that we brought over today, we're going to put them in the quarantine system so that they can start their 2-week process where we can make sure they're perfectly healthy and then put them in the big aquarium. So here's our beautiful lemon peel angel. Place them right in the quarantine tank. So this little fish looks like a minnow, is called a silver side. And we use this to feed to the eels because we're really trying to beefing them up, put some size on them. And he'll smell it as soon as it hits the water. He might be a little nervous with that new lemon peel, but let's see if we can get him to come out and eat. I always tell people that what we do is similar to painting a mural on a wall. Anyone can pick up a can of paint and a paintbrush and create something beautiful with color, but there are murals that you look at and you can recognize the artist immediately. As much as I love the biology and the chemistry and the science about what I do, appreciate the art so much more. So we've purposely tried to keep our business as small as possible because what we do is so unique to the very small team that we have. We have expanded in the past and tried to see how big we could grow, but the level of quality drops and the unique aesthetic starts to suffer. So we've realized that early on, and now we purposely keep our company small and take on projects that are really meant for us. Today we are in Bradbury, California, which is about a half-hour outside of Los Angeles. Behind me is a beautiful custom home that's been under construction for several years, and we have a large 1,800-gallon saltwater aquarium that we dropped into the basement about 3.5 years ago so that the house could be built around the fish tank. It's obviously way too big for any of the doorways, so it had to go in there first. But today we're starting our plumbing phase. We're going to put all of the filtration together and connect it to the bottom of the aquarium in preparation to fill this tank in the coming months, and we're excited. So this aquarium is about 12 foot long, 4 foot front to back, and 5 feet tall. Additionally, there's several hundred gallons of filtration in an adjacent room. But the idea for this installation was to recreate the type of environment you would see along the California coast or the Baja Peninsula down in Mexico, kind of those warmer subtropical temperatures. As you can see from the materials in this room, we have old wood that creates these beams along the ceiling. There's a lot of stone, a lot of hardwoods in this room. So I have confidence that this will fit in this room very well and just be very cohesive with the whole interior. As an industry, we have to start stepping up and realizing that we've got to make some changes and do what we can to make sure that this hobby is around for many more decades so that kids like myself can learn from it, be inspired by it, be educated by it. I knew marine science when I was 12 years old. I knew biology and chemistry when I was a teenager. And I had the inspiration to travel around the globe when I got my scuba certification as a child. So all of those things are a direct result of being in the aquarium hobby. The question is, how can we do that for all of the next generations, but to do it in a more sustainable manner? And I think that's the challenge ahead of me, and I think that's really what I want to dedicate the second half of my career to, is building these beautiful aquariums, but at the same time, educating our clients, educating our newcomers to our community and our hobby about how we can be more sustainable and improve this industry so that it's around for years to come.